And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Benched with Bubba, episode 668. Here to recap your week 5 in the FAAB world, talk some recent news, and much more like we like to do on the show here. You can find me on Twitter at BDintric, and I am joined once again this week by a friend of the show. You can find them over at sportsethos.com and on Twitter at BreakingBen_T. Ben Tidd, how we doing, my friend?
Hey, Bub, doing great. Glad to be back on again. 2 weeks in a row is nice, and got some news to cover, and I think a little more exciting FAAB than we've been used to start the season.
100%. It's a lot, at least was more exciting. We kind of talked off the year. More exciting in my world for once compared to the boring picks that people are like, you're not even helping me, Bubba. Like, what are we doing here? But we'll have some fun with that. I'm looking forward to seeing who you have as I stole the pre-talk on my guys. So I'm really curious who you picked up. But yeah, there are some names that were a little more intriguing, especially offensively this week compared to recent weeks, which made it fun. But we do have recent news. So let's kind of get over some of the bigger ones from this past weekend / Monday. There's way more news. If you guys want all the intricacies of news, go follow my Substack. I get you an article almost every day. I took a little breather this weekend, but got you covered this morning. Francisco Alvarez out 6 to 8 weeks for the Mets with a torn ligament in his thumb, has to have surgery. I didn't have any Alvarez shares, but a lot of people really did. Like the guilds loved, and there's a lot of power to love. That never scared me, but that's not the point of the discussion here. The discussion here is he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, so 2 months. Who knows what you get when you get back? Was he a drop for you?
It's team dependent, which is like the cop-out answer, but he in a 12, I could see maybe dropping him because there's probably a little bit better catch or choose on the waiver wire, but in a 15, if I had him, I don't have him anywhere, even in DCs, I would have tried to held on. Like if I had maybe one other injured player or at the most, like if I have like 2 or 3 with Alvarez, I'd try to keep him. But I mean, like you mentioned, the power is kind of game changing at the position. The only other catcher really is probably Cal Raleigh that has the upside. Like even Adley and Wilson, they're more of like complete hitters. I don't think the power that Alvarez has, but yeah, I think he needs to learn how to run because if you ever seen Alvarez run, it's not pretty. And I think I kind of hurt him this time, literally.
Yeah, I was watching that. Like the fact he messed up his ligament by basically bracing himself on the ground, rounding first. I'm like, that had to be like pre-hurt from like catching a fastball or something. Because if that's what tore your ligament, I'm like, oh man, come on. Like that's one of those injuries that you'll look back on and laugh someday, but right now you're not. Yeah, out 2 months. So we're talking May, June, probably like a late June, early July return, all-star break type thing. Yeah. In the grand scheme of things. Still leaves you about 2.5 months to go when he comes back. He's got the power to be crazy, but like in a 12, I would be dropping because there are at least like even a Conor Wong who's swinging it well, or we talked to Ivan Herrera, Miguel Amaya. Like in 12s, you can make things work for sure. 10s, 100% you're dropping him. I know that like people on Yahoo, ESPN, CBS, and your 10s, you're dropping, Alvarez, unless you have IL spots. We always forget to go that direction there. But 15s is a tough one because I see the appeal if you have the right moves, but at the same time, we've talked about it before, is sometimes a 0 from your catcher spot's better than whatever you're picking up off the waiver wire because that might drown you even more. So it's kind of a catch-22. It's tough to have a 0 for 2 months, but maybe you wait until somebody gets called up, but there's another situation that clears up, and then you make that move. So yeah, it's tricky. 8 months, that's usually my window. Like if I get 6 to 8 weeks and I'm leaning 8 weeks, I usually start dropping guys. But I play more 12s. So that's kind of the world I live in.
Yeah, and just as a rostership update, he is 68% owned in the main right now, Alvarez. So about 2/3 of the people decided to hold on for at least a little bit longer, and a third gave up. So that seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, it's about right. It's probably people that could hold. Like for now, there's other ones like I need any like run and RBI I could possibly get at this point in time. And that's like you said, the team dependent part is not just, what's available on the waiver wire leagues. It's what can your team withhold essentially to make matters, okay while he's gone. Well, we got a bummer on this one. I'm just going to put it bluntly, I guess, or nicely. Triston Casas, who everyone absolutely was like, well, majority of people were very excited about this draft season and was heating up in a big way, like crushing baseballs the last week and a half. He goes to the IL with what I put as a quote-unquote rib injury. He's getting more testing on Monday as we record. We have not heard any new information from the Red Sox, as I believe they have the day off today, so we'll get news on Tuesday probably on what Casas' situation actually is. I do know, well, we all know, as Alex Cora said, he doesn't feel great about this. Like, it doesn't look good. It's one of those where it feels like it's a 6 to 8 week thing, maybe longer, like maybe 2 to 3 month thing with Casas. Like, so there's rib or ligament or something going on in there. So he's going to be out for some time unless they get an amazing review of some sort. Bobby Dahlback likely takes his spot. That doesn't do anything for me. What are we thinking if we're Tristan Casas managers out there? Like, how are we going about this?
Yeah, so calling it a strain and combining it with ribs makes me think it's something muscular, but it's like in the rib area. So I mean, there's muscles over your ribs, so it's more like a location-based description, I think. But it definitely looked like a oblique on the swing. Like, this swing is usually oblique, and then the reaction and like grabbing the side, so it didn't look ideal. It's probably at least so Seiya Suzuki went down with the non like dominant, I guess, oblique injury. He's going to be back like 4 weeks, maybe, is optimistic. So like with Casas, and it's his right side, he's a left-handed hitter. So I think it's going to be a little bit longer if it's the type of injury that like an oblique injury would be, which I think is probably what it is. But like you said, there's not really an update since the initial news came out, which stinks. Yeah, it's the same thing like with me. Like, so when I said to keep Alvarez, in 15s if you can, like anyone who I've picked before pick 200 is pretty valuable in a 15, and Alvarez fit that bill, and Casas is more like a pick 100. So he's definitely someone I would try to prioritize keeping if you don't have enough like injuries to players who are even better. If you have more players injured, like 3 pre-pick 100, then you're in big trouble. Then you probably have to cut Casas. But just on the town alone, I mean, first base is kind of deep, but a lot of the guys at the end aren't performing. Like Andrew Vaughn's been a disappointment. Abreu is completely washed up. There's probably other guys too, but those two come to mind first. That's more for like a 12 replacement discussion. But yeah, of course, if you have IL, keep Casas. Same thing with Alvarez, but Casas has the 35 homer upside. So if you can hold on to him, I definitely would.
Yeah, no, I pulled up the OC as you're talking here because I'd hold him as long as possible. Only 4% dropped him this past week. So they're waiting for at least, like I said, maybe he doesn't get tested and all of a sudden, it's not as bad as we thought. He's out 2 weeks. Like, he's a guy you can at least wait a week and see what's going on. Like, get a little breather, get some more information here. But looking deeper, 11% of people started him. So thank you for that, everybody. But yeah, you look at just say sub 50% roster players on the NFBC. Connor Joe, Gavin Sheets. You mentioned the washed up Abreu, Kevin Biggio, Lamont Wade, Luke Raley, Nolan Shenwell. Like, it's a whole lot of maybe streaming situations. It's brutal. As deep as first base is, it feels like everyone rostered them at corner, infield, and first base probably. So there's not a lot on the waiver wire. And like if you're playing Yahoo, I was looking at that. There's a ton of options, a ton. If you're in the Yahoo format, so go check your wires there. But this is where it's getting weird, Ben, because it's like we do these FAAB recaps and we talk about how bleak the pitching pool is, but now we're getting these hitter injuries, and it's not as luxurious as it once felt it was going to be at certain positions. So I don't know. Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm getting hit hard by the hitter injuries in my main events. It's not ideal, but yeah. It's gonna happen eventually.
Yep, it definitely is. Alex Cobb, this one is a big bummer. I've dropped him pretty much everywhere I can now after being a big proponent of stashing Alex Cobb when he looked healthy, and then he had a minor setback. Now I got setback even more with the shoulder injury. He's on the 60 IL. Just wanted to mention that because I'm fessing up to being wrong on this one. So there you go, everybody. Feel free to drop Alex Cobb as early as he can come back to May 27th. We got at least a month to go for Alex Cobb, but I will be stashing if he gets closer with good news. We'll see. All right, here's a fun one, though, Ben. Adbert Alzolay. It's been a rough go, like 3 or 4 just horrific starts. And I was a big Alzolay fan based on price, based on the talent we saw in the past. Didn't get him as many places as I thought I would, but still a few shares for sure. And it's been bad, like really bad. And they announced, Craig Counsell announced Alzolay is being removed from the closing duties for the time being, a la Jose Leclerc and others. So it's one of those, like, he might get the job back or someone might take it from him, essentially. So how are you approaching this Chicago Cubs closing situation?
Well, we can wait till our FAAB discussion because I definitely addressed it. Yeah, perfect. When you said I was shaking my head when you said, I forget what you said, but I was like, no, this is not a good one. This is not good. Yeah, it's so I really don't like Craig Counsell. I think he thinks he's so smart, and he's really not. It started when I think it was spring training when he came in and said that there isn't a closer. After Alzolay was like one of the best closers in the second half last year. I don't get why you would say that. Like Hector Neris is very overrated. Like, even going into this year, I remember I took Alzolay in a DC, and I thought, okay, well, I should pair up Neris just to be safe, because at that point, like I think the comment already came out from Counsell. So I'm like, okay, well, I want to sure up. It's a DC. There's no FAAB, so I need to make sure I at least have the top two guys or whoever my RP1 is. And I looked into Neris, and I ended up passing on him. Like I could have taken him at a certain point, but I wanted more of like a full-time position player because of where he was going, Neris. And I don't know, like I'm looking at Alzolay's stats, a 4.09 ERA and a 1.27 WHIP. He hasn't been like, he's been better than Josh Hader. He has 10 Ks, 4 walks, and 11 innings. The problem is he has 10 hits and 4 walks. Well, that's not even that bad. The WHIP's 1.27. I don't know, that for some reason Counsell doesn't like him, and it's annoying. And it cost me a lot of FAAB because I have Alzolay in a main event. And I mean, I think I'm still going to play him, I'm probably going to start Alzolay this week. I definitely am in the DC because I don't think I have a RP backup that's going to get saved. So, I mean, Alzolay already had a good inning yesterday. I think on Sunday he pitched in like the middle of the game and didn't allow any base runners, struck out one. So that was good. I mean, I don't know. It could just be like Counsell trying to get him to get his act together, quote unquote, but he literally just had 2 bad starts in a row or relief appearances. And I don't know. I think Counsell taking Alzolay out of the role or saying he's not the closer right now is a little extreme, but I don't know. It's what we got to deal with.
Yep, that's what we got to deal with. It's a little rough. I'm with you on that one. I thought he'd get a little more love on that one, but here we are, and Alzolay's out of the way. So I have a feeling who you picked up. We'll talk about that, like you said, a little later on, and get a little more info on that. Christian Javier, he was scratched on Sunday heading to the IL. I believe it was neck discomfort last time I read. That was the second guy this past week. Again, no shoulder, no elbow. Okay, that's a start, but still not a warm and fuzzy feeling here. Spencer Arrighetti got the call to take his spot in the rotation. He'll throw later this week, I believe Wednesday, if I remember reading correctly. So what's your takes on this? I guess we're holding Javier. It shouldn't be a long out period, but yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I was scared off by Javier because of how bad he looked last year, but he's definitely gotten off to a decent start. Definitely seems kind of lucky with 18 Ks and 11 walks and 23 innings. Those are too close, I think, for a 1.48 ERA and a 1.07 WHIP. So he's definitely had some good fortune, Javier. I'd be more likely to cut him than, say, Casas. I'd probably hold on to Javier over Alvarez, though, because of the timeline that you alluded to. But just like the Astros in general, that they're in a mess right now. I was looking at standings for the first time the other day, and I think they're in last, and they just keep losing starters. It's kind of wild. They must be something wrong with what they're doing with their pitchers.
Yeah, they got that Tampa Bay Rays thing going on over there. It's a wild one. So we'll see how that plays out because, yeah, they got Arrighetti and Verlander going this week. Hunter Brown's been a disaster. They probably wish he was on the IL to get better. We'll see. But it's not pretty, that's for darn sure. Braves can relate, though. They lost Spencer Strider, of course. Now we're going to try our third option to replace him in the rotation, as Darius Vines was not great either. And now it's Bryce Elder's turn. This is like between Smith, Shawver, and Elder. Everyone thought it'd be Elder first and Shawver. Now at least one of them's getting a shot here. That's what it comes down to. Elder had his moments last year. I remember being like, he's a pitch-to-contact guy. It's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly. And he kept kind of getting it done. It was really kind of Michael Wacha-esque at times for Bryce Elder. But this year in 3 minor league starts, 6 earned runs in 16 and a third innings, 18 strikeouts. Going to get the ball on Monday as we record later this evening to see how that goes. So I guess obviously we have to see how Bryce Elder does before we get excited about it. But what are your thoughts on this whole situation playing out? Because as I said, this is at least one of the names people wanted to see. Yeah,
because he had that success early on last year. Even when he was projected to potentially be in the rotation during early drafts, I didn't really want Elder because he's like one of those Kyle Hendricks types where he low K rate, kind of got lucky with the contact. But yeah, he's pitched pretty well in AAA. His ERA is 3.31 and his estimators are all in the same range, so that's good. And the one thing that stands out is so in the majors last year, he had a 6.6 K per 9. This is just what I'm looking at right now. I would probably go with K percentage over this, but In AAA, it's 9.92, so 3 Ks more per 9 compared to what he did even in AAA last year for Elder. So that's a good sign. And even just being on the Braves, with the win potential, he has value, especially in 15. So I just checked my player pool, and he's not available in the main event right now, Elder. So he'll probably be one of the bigger FAAB pickups going into next week. And so hopefully we'll have to pay attention to see how he does in his first start.
Yeah, we're really curious to see how he does. Technically, he probably lines up for a 2-step this week, so we'll get a couple shots at him. But not in the player pools and OCs either. So I'll have to kind of wait and see on that one.
It's too bad. It's a good 2-step, Miami versus and Cleveland.
That's a really good 2-step. So it'll probably be awesome. Cost a lot of money, and it'll just go downhill from there. So that's kind of on par with a lot of things these days in fantasy. So just brace for impact, everybody. That's all I'm going to say. Pete Fairbanks goes to the IL, and this is where it's like weird to me. They're reporting it as nerve-related issue. That's it. Not where the nerve is. I'm assuming that's back or neck if it's nerve-related issue, but could be a lot of places. Could be an elbow. It could be anywhere, so we don't know for sure. They called up Kevin Kelly to replace him on the roster, but this pretty much means Jason Adam time. I'm pretty confident in. So, Ben, you already have the Owsley thing you mentioned. Other people might have Fairbanks or other closer issues on their teams. Jason Adam is rostered in a lot of formats. Like, people were already kind of speculating with Fairbanks struggles, of course. Like, Adam's 50% rostered in OCs already. So, he's already there. But if he's available and you need closing situations and we find out this is maybe a 3 or 4 week thing for Fairbanks, how excited are you about Jason Adam?
I'm pretty excited because I think it was Chris Towers. I could be mistaken, but someone tweeted how the Rays have kind of kicked the closer by committee mentality, obviously because Fairbanks was the full-time closer. But even when he's been down, it's been Adams for the most part, or Adam, who gets most of the save chances when Fairbanks is on the IL. So that's good for anyone who does have Jason Adam, or if you're going to try to add him in FAAB, either in a daily league or this upcoming Sunday. Yeah, and so the nerve issue, that could be, it could literally be anywhere on his arm. So, but if you also recall, this is what they said Jeffrey Springs had last year. It was a nerve issue in his elbow.
True.
And then it turned out he needed Tommy John. And we all know how healthy Fairbanks has not been in his career. He had 8 more walks than innings pitched so far. So it's probably not going to be good news. I mean, at least we have a week to wait if you're in a weekly format. But I could see Fairbanks being a drop potentially. So you could speculate on some other closer options if you need to add a second or third.
Yeah, it's kind of where I'm at because Fairbanks has been rough where I've actually sat him like the last week for other options in certain formats. And if it's going to be like a month thing, it's one of those where go take your chance elsewhere potentially and see what happens, because it's a good point you make there with the Jeffrey Springs thing where many people were optimistic. Oh, it's just a nerve thing. He'll be back in a few weeks. Next thing you know, like you said, he's having surgery. So this does not bode well. And it is a Rays pitcher. We know how they love the knife over there in those scenarios. A couple more bits of news here. Wade Miley hits the IL. I love these Monday ILs. I don't know about you, Ben, but they're so much fun. Especially when you're not in 50, like a DC or something, you have no bench to use. But Miley heads to the IL with elbow inflammation. This seems normal. Tobias Myers will get recalled from AAA. He's had a cup of coffee already, and people are kind of optimistic on him. I know you were talking to Robert Gasser before the show. They already came out and said Gasser needs to get stretched out. He's going to throw it Thursday in Nashville, then probably gets a call up in the following weeks. So what are your thoughts on this whole Wade Miley situation?
Yeah, so Miley barely pitched because I think he started late with an injury, and now he's out early with an injury, so that stinks for him. I guess we'll just mention him now, but also Jacob Junis has been removed from the Brewers rotation. So according to Roster Resource, they're down to Peralta, Ray, and Joe Ross. So they definitely have to make some moves. And like you mentioned, we were talking before, I think there's a chance that Aaron Ashby could get called up, but you were thinking that he may not be stretched out enough. There's Jason Junk, who I know has been up before. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned Gasser. Also, someone I liked in DC season was Carlos F. Rodriguez. He's in AAA now. He's younger than Gasser. And then also the other big prospect is Jacob Mizorowski, who's in AA. So those are like the big three: Gasser, Mizorowski, and Rodriguez. But it's kind of early to see them, and they're not stretched out, like you said. So it could be a kind of messy situation to replace Miley. So
it
I don't
could
really
be
have much more to offer than that.
no, it could be really, really, really messy because we were already making fun of the Brewers rotation preseason, and now it's like we've lost Junis, who got hit by a line drive in batting practice on Monday, got taken to the hospital on an ambulance. We got obviously the Miley situation. I don't know where they're going anytime soon, so it's not good. That's the best way I'm going to put that. Last bit of news, and this I just added right now. This isn't a big talking point. I just want to came up earlier on Monday. Ozzie Albies might return on Friday. So if you're in NFBC leagues, you might get him back for the weekend, which was great because I have him in way too many leagues, and it was painful to sit there and watch that situation. So just for listeners, I wanted to add that out there. Keep an eye on it. You might get Ozzie Albies back this week. All right, let's review some FAAB. This should be a doozy this week, as you mentioned. We have some very intriguing names to discuss here. No Colton Cowsers this week. Sorry to break it to you, but we'll start with another prospect. Kicking things off here, Andy Pages of the Los Angeles Dodgers was added 178 OCs, as high as $342 and as low as $3. Kind of like I said, we got Cowser last week. People went crazy for him, but he produced to show it. This is more the hype train for Pages that got people coming up here. And the bright side is he's played every game since he's been called up in the outfield. He has 4 hits. He's hitting 222, strikes out a lot in a small sample, but did go deep on Sunday. So what are your thoughts on Pages, who I got 0 shares of, but I think there's a lot to like. Like if he actually clicks, he basically can do what Outman did last year or more, I think.
Yeah, but I think with probably more power, less speed, but similar type impact to your fantasy team. Yeah, so I had bids on Pages as well. I didn't get him. I had someone else ahead of him in all my bid lists that we'll talk about later when we review our FAAB. But for me, it was the strikeout rate why I didn't go higher with Pages. And so in his small sample in the majors, he has 9 and 18 at bats. So, and he hasn't walked. So I'm assuming that's a 50% strikeout rate, which is not ideal. Even if he hits the ball very hard, you can't really do much if you're striking out that often. Also with Pages, he didn't play a lot last year, only 34 games in the minors, 2 different stints, AA, AAA. He hasn't really played a lot in his minor league career. In 2022, 2021, 130, 220 games. A lot of power, though. So he's definitely a power hitter. Like if you needed homer help, which a couple of my teams kind of did, but I don't know, the average is kind of scary. And like he had the Dodger tax, he had the Sunday homer tax, like you mentioned. So that's definitely why the price got driven up as much as it did. I was more on like less than $50 in my bids for him. This is more of a, hey, if I get him, I get him. If I don't, I don't. It's okay.
Yep, we were in the same ballpark there. I was going, like you said, I'll talk about my guys I was much more excited about because I like boring veterans or at least players that have proven it before. Flaw of mine at times, but that's where I was with Pages. All right, I'm going to combine 2 guys here because we kind of talked about it with Owsley, but Hector Neris was the second most added player this week in 158 leagues. As high as 407 for some reason, as low as $1. And then we had Mark Leiter Jr. in 74 leagues, as high as 59, as low as $1. You already gave us your thoughts on Neris. Why don't you give us your thoughts now on Mark Leiter? I have a feeling you were that's what you're talking about earlier. Yeah,
so I was alluding to my moves. I might as well say now since we're talking about Neris and Leiter together. But I was late in one of my main events, so I bid for both Neris and Leiter. I did not want to get screwed over by counsel, so I made sure I got all 3 Cubs closers. So now I have Alzolay, Neris, and Leiter Jr. The thing with Leiter is so according to Greg Jewett and the guys at Reliever Recon, and I read it through Closer Monkey. They're marking Leiter as the high leverage reliever, so that means he could get save chances based on how things could fall. Like I already mentioned, how I'm not a big fan of Neris's underlying skills. I don't know how they are compared to this year, but I know he has a high whip. I don't know why. I'm sure counsel can see that if he looks at stats. I'm sure he knows that he probably hasn't been the most effective reliever, Neris. But yeah, that bid for 407 is a lot for someone who may not even have the role for that long of a time. And it's always wild. 407 max 1 min for Neris. It blows my mind.
Yeah, 12s, man. It's freaking nuts.
Yeah, I saw some big. So I think I was reading Waxman's FAAB review for the main event, and there were some pretty hefty lighter bids, more than what I got him for. So people were definitely playing the quote unquote cheaper option, but they didn't really make him as cheap as I thought he would be. Yeah, so this is messy for right now. Hopefully, and we have to wait an extra day. I think the Cubs are off today, so I can still change who I want to start in that main event. I have another day to decide if any news comes out. But yeah, it's a lot of FAAB, almost half your budget on Neris when he may not even have it for more than a week.
That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Bold strategy on that one. But we'll see. Maybe he goes full Kirby Yates on us, gets 3 saves and a win this week, and we all just shut our mouth real quick. Like that's one of those pretty wild ones as well. A guy that I've been very excited about a couple of weeks ago with Bloomfield, we're looking at some hard hit guys early in the season, and Luis Garcia, if you're looking at his quality of contact metrics out the gate, was crushing baseballs. And so he's been on my radar for a couple of weeks. I haven't needed position here until this week with Ozzy Albies going up, but Garcia wasn't available in my leagues. But he was available in 155 leagues to be picked up, as high as 127, as low as $1 for Luis Garcia of the Washington Nationals. And he's been beasting out. I'm guessing a lot of this transactions was due to Albies injury, but Garcia 317, 1 homer, 5 steals to start the year. Good plate discipline metrics as well. So what are your thoughts on Luis Garcia?
I'm a fan. He's someone that I was big on drafting last year in draft holds. I have him on one already. Well, not already, but I drafted him once again this past season. And I did add him, I think, last week in the main event, Garcia. And the biggest thing that stands out to me is I just X out of the tab. I think I'm good, though. I thought I X out of the StreamYard for a second. It's the steals. So Garcia has 5 steals already, and his career high is 9, said last year. So, but like his speed on Baseball Savant isn't the highest, 53%. But I mean, if you can be smart and still steal bases, especially with the new rules and the bigger bases. So that's awesome. There's also a lot of red. He has a high xWOBA, 76th percentile. X-slug is 89th percentile. His barrel rate's 84th percentile, 13.5%. And he only has 1 homer to show for it. So I think he's getting a little unlucky unless he's not pulling the barrels, because there's been a lot of discussion about where you hit your barrels can really matter. But the one, and also too, so he's 23, and this is his 5th season already, which is kind of insane. He came up in 2020. And unfortunately, for someone so young, the Nationals, I don't think have handled him too well, like with the platooning and sending him down to the minors when there's no reason to, like, unless he's like severely struggling. He never really has. Like, he's been fine since he's been in the majors. But this could be the breakout. I mean, he's still very young, so who knows what his ceiling could be. But he's definitely a valuable, like, 15 team piece. But as long as he platoons, though, it's going to be hard to sit him, I think, or play him all the time in 12s. And but things are looking good for Luis Garcia. I definitely like him.
Yeah, I like where the trajectory is going with Luis Garcia. It'd be nice if they wouldn't yo-yo him around and let him play against, no platoon, let him play second, let Abrams play short and see what the future actually looks like. That might be fun. Just a concept out there for the Nationals, but we'll see. Maybe they'll get there eventually. Like you said, he's so young, and we're like the metrics are looking so good. It's like, let the kid play. Let's see what he can really do. And that's where I've been kind of watching him so far. I just hadn't needed him. Would have liked to have had him for a little bit this week. Joel Payamps is back. 145 leagues, as high as 263, as low as 11. The low bit of 11, that's an interesting one for a couple reasons. Like, he was back in the 9th inning role over the last week. Touche, he's got a win. Abner Uribe has been pitching earlier in games. The only thing that concerned me, Ben, and like I was still interested in Payamps, don't get me wrong, but Trevor McGill came back, and we know how they kind of liked him as well. So I don't know. I guess I'm not comfortable with saying it's Payamps' job now, the way I was like when the injury first happened to Devin Williams a while back. I'm like, Payamps is the guy. They used Uribe and McGill high leverage late, and it didn't work out that way. But now it's kind of working out that way. So I'm scared. So what was your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so I was more worried about just like tackling the Cubs situation on that one team. And my other leagues, I didn't really need closer help, so I kind of had the blinders on to the situation. It's hard for me to commit to someone like Payamps because Devin Williams should be back eventually. So it's still kind of a rental situation unless Devin has a setback, but you can't really project that out right now. And I do know about McGill, how they seemed to like him last year, the Brewers, but Payamps got the 2 saves, and it definitely seems like Uribe is out of the picture now, so that's definitely a positive. The 263 is definitely a little more bearable than the 407 for Neris, so, but it's still probably more than I would have wanted to pay. I mean, like if you can pay $11 for Payamps all day, I'll do that. It's just another murky situation like the Cubs may be right now. It's just tough when there's not a committed closer.
Yep, I'm with you on that one. Boston Red Sox, Wilyer Abreu was the next most added player. 145 leagues, as high as 125, as low as $1. The manager Alex Cora basically said Abreu's going to play against every right-handed pitcher. They locked him in center field for that. A lot of right-handed pitchers on deck this week. Over the last 10 games, Abreu's hitting 375, 5 doubles, a homer, 4 steals, 8 runs, and 7 RBIs. Like he's hitting all the boxes. He's walking a ton. There's a lot to like with Wilyer Abreu. As long as the schedule's proper for the week, you're going to probably have him in most lineups. What were your thoughts on Abreu?
I prefer Abreu over Pages in my FAAB list.
Nice.
Still didn't get Abreu because there's somebody else I preferred more that actually we're not going to talk about until we get to my ads, but I definitely like the power speed from Abreu. He's been hitting like 3rd or 4th for the Red Sox, because they're so injured. Like there hasn't been Devers or ONeill, and now Casas is hurt, so he's going to hit the top of the lineup while everybody else is out. But I think we should get some people back soon. I think ONeill's going to come back tomorrow. Hopefully Devers is back tomorrow as well. But in the minors, Abreu had like 20, 30 upside. He didn't really steal as much last year. He only had 8 steals in 86 games in AAA, but he had 22 home runs. The year before, he had 19 homers, 31 steals. The average isn't the best, and that kind of held back my bids because I saw people bidding like over $100 in the main event, I think, for Abreu. Kind of crazy. And year-to-date, Abreu has 17 Ks and 50 at-bats, so he's kind of pushing like upper 20, 30% probably on the K rate, so that could be an issue. And there's the platoon risk. There's a lot of outfielders in Boston. But yeah, I definitely like the upside, and just be careful though. Like it could be another situation where he's not playing again for some reason at some point. But I definitely was in on Abreu this week.
Yep, barring the right schedule, Abreu should be quite serviceable for your fantasy teams going forward. Amed Rosario. This was I was actually surprised how many shares were still left to be picked up with Amed because he's been pretty much balling out here since injuries began in Tampa this year. Rosario's picked up in 134 leagues, as high as 132, as low as $1 for Rosario on the season, hitting 351, 2 homers, 3 steals, 12 RBIs, only 13% K rate, and he has a 9-game hitting streak rolling into the week here. So Rosario's playing great, playing every day. What were your thoughts on Amed Rosario?
Well, he wasn't available in any 15s, but I'm a big fan of his. I do have Rosario on the main event, and he's been a staple in my lineup, mainly because of injury, but just because of the speed and the playing time. He's hitting, like you mentioned, for great average. So this could be like the bounce back that we've kind of been waiting for. Rosario was he was stuck in the short side platoon with the Dodgers last year, and I decided to take a flyer on him where I did because I need like a speed upside play, and I figured now for sure he has the outfield, second, and shortstop eligibility. So the 3 different positions, which is awesome. It's very useful in in a NFBC format. He's like in his career, he's had high 200, so he's definitely going to be a batting average help. I don't know how much power is going to be there. He's at 2 already, which is good. He had 6 all of last year, but hopefully he can start running a little bit more, Rosario, and I think he'll be someone I probably keep in the lineup as long as the Rays keep playing him, because he was kind of not a full-time player to start the season either, going into 2024. But with their injuries and now that he's playing so well, I think they kind of have to leave him in the lineup at some spot going forward.
Yep, that's where I'm with you on that one. It feels like it was an outfield injury that kind of opened the door there, and then all of a sudden we have Brandon Lau, who saw that coming, get hurt, and there's just all kinds of options. We know they're looking for a stable shortstop situation as well in Tampa Bay, so he can move all over the diamond when things are all said and done, which is pretty enticing with Amed Rosario, and he hashtag went to driveline. So
that's true.
That's a fun one as well. All right, Jesse Winker adding 125 leagues, as high as 75, as low as $1. I had Winker a week or 2 ago. We had a bunch of righties there facing. He's been serviceable. He's hit safely in 10 of his last 12. He's hitting 328 on the year, 2 homers, 2 doubles. You'd like to see a little more production in the power department, but He's providing average, gets on base a ton if you're in OBP formats. Like, he's a streaming outfielder still. Like, I like the upside to him. It's more of a matchup dependent thing. Like, he still plays versus lefties, but I don't prefer to play him versus lefties. It's kind of a week to week thing with Jesse Winker, where I don't know if it's hard to drop a Jesse Winker, but you definitely want him you want to be rostering him in certain leagues.
Yeah. So as you were talking, I was trying to think of like a comparison. I think Jock Peterson's a pretty good comp, because I would just handle Winker as you would handle Peterson. Like, if there's 3 or 4 righties on the schedule, start him. But Mike Curlin's MLB playing time and roster resource both have Winker as a full-time player, which I don't think will probably be the case, because looking at the Nationals' last 6 games, they faced 6 right-handed starters in a row. So I'm pretty sure he was platooning at first, and he probably will continue to platoon, because when he was on the Reds back in the day, when he kind of broke out, he was awful against lefties. Winker was, but it's just funny to see, like, Winker was a big 15-team guy like a week or 2 ago. Like you kind of were saying, it's just funny to see like the 12-team ads kind of lag, like with Luis Garcia. But yeah, it makes sense, because there's more of the player pool to go through before you get to these guys in 12. So definitely a good ad, like you said too, for streaming.
Yep, and that's what's kind of fun. Like, I love my 12s, as most listeners should know, but as part of the fun of doing 15s, you kind of see these other guys ahead of time, and if you do it right, you get them cheap and kind of play the game at the same time as. Like a 15, you're going to keep Winker no matter what. Where at a 12, there might be a week where Winker's just a drop, and you play the game going forward type situation, and maybe try to add him again when things are a better situation, some would say. All righty. Next up here, we have Ryan O'Hearn adding 123 leagues, as high as 133, as low as $1. Great guy to play when the Orioles have a lot of righties on the schedule, which they had last week. But this week, they faced 3 lefties and 3 righties, so I did not understand the Ryan O'Hearn love so much. Next week, they face 4 lefties and 3 righties, so that's 7 lefties and 6 righties over the next 13 games. That's a tough platoon situation for Ryan O'Hearn in my mind.
Yeah, he's platooning probably more than Winker would be.
100%.
And so yeah, this is people probably just responding. He's hit a homer week 2, week 3, then he had 2 last week, O'Hearn. Mm-hmm. So people are probably just chasing the power. The dual eligibility is nice too. Yeah, I feel like O'Hearn, someone that would probably already be rostered in 15s everywhere. I don't think I recall seeing him in free agency. But same conversation as Winker. It's just like probably a little lag behind what's happening on the season though. O'Hearn's hitting 268, which is very nice. When he does play, he hits in the heart of the loaded Orioles lineup. So there's value when he is playing. And yeah, people may not have paid attention to who the Orioles are facing this week, but probably won't get that much production out of him.
Nope. Yeah, I do love the Hearn when they place the righties, but the next couple of weeks they ain't looking good in that situation. Jonatan Clase. Jonatan, I said it correctly too, because at first people think there's no H there, folks. It's Jonatan Clase. And for the Seattle Mariners, he was added in 122 leagues, as high as 151, as low as $1. Honestly, thought he might go a little higher, but I think Victor Scott's recent production scared people a little bit, is kind of where I'm thinking on this, because Clase so far in his 6 games, 250 average, 2 steals, a double. So like he's not been a drag, but he hasn't been a great. Over 12 minor league games at AAA, he hit 311 with 2 homers and 3 steals. It's a dude that throughout his career has run wild with a little bit of pop. So what's your thoughts on Jonatan Clase, who, to the surprise of myself, the Mariners are at least playing him every game right now?
Yeah, I'm about to see why they're playing him so often.
I was surprised by that.
Yeah, so, Rayleigh's sitting now. He's kind of been a flop. It was the Canzone injury. That's what it was. So it was kind of like Rayleigh and Canzone, and now Clase is filling that gap. Yeah, so I definitely had Clase on my FAAB list. I didn't really need like a huge boost in steals in most spots. Like I'm kind of middle of the pack, which is fine for this early in the season for me. Yeah, I wasn't going to break the bank on a speedster. We saw what happened with Victor Scott, like you mentioned. And the one thing with Clase is he has had pretty low averages in the minors. So he was pretty hot, 311 before he got called up this year. But last year, 242, 267 the year before that, and 2021 was 245. So my take is always, don't expect those to go up when you get called up to the majors. It's probably going to go down. So if you need, he could be a batting average risk, and he has this high strikeout rate in the minors for his career. Yes, I mean, he could be like one of those fun Jake McCarthy picks if he ends up being like serviceable. He's a switch hitter, I believe, so he shouldn't get platoon, which also helps to why he's playing every day. But yeah, I just wasn't willing to pay that premium for steals.
Yep, that was my thing. It's like I didn't really need to at this point in time. I'm looking more in the power department on things, so we'll see. He has kind of a rabbity vibe to him, and that kind of always scares me off of some of these guys. Another one that this is kind of a recency bias one to me. Ryan Weathers picked up in 107 leagues, as high as 133, as low as $1. Yeah, 6 innings, 2 earned, 10 Ks against the Giants. You can use the argument it's been 3 earned runs or less in each start, 5 Ks or more in 3 out of 4 starts. But my argument for you this week, he's got a 2-step. Okay, yeah. At Atlanta and then versus an actually half decent Nationals team. The Atlanta start alone has him sitting on anywhere I have him right now. What's your thoughts on this Ryan Weathers? Because it's a combination of I'm not starting him against Atlanta. If he deals, kudos. Second, like it feels like he's the odd man out when Garrett comes back. So the big spend kind of surprised me, but I could be wrong. Could be somebody else. Maybe, actually with Puck out, Garrett takes that spot essentially. So what's your thoughts on this Ryan Weathers move? Because I like Ryan Weathers, but didn't like him for this week. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so this is the life of a 15-team league. I think I'm starting Weathers. Yep, I ended up starting Weathers in one of my main events. I didn't want to do it, but it was Ryan Feltner in Colorado, Chris Paddock for 2, or Graham Ashcraft versus the Phillies. And Ashcraft has been valuable, but the Phillies are getting hot, and they're in Cincinnati. So I went for LeVine.
Probably made the right choice out of those 4, actually. That is the life of a 15 in a nutshell, yes.
Yeah, but so I have Weathers stats up, 24%. So the issue with Weathers really is the walk rate, 10.1%, which is not very good. The K- walk percentage is 14.6, which is like middle of the road. Sierra and XFIP are kind of around 4, which in a 15 is okay. 12.1% swing strike rate, which is nice. The exit velocity is so the contact against is the issue. So 91.9% or 91.9 miles per hour average exit velocity for Weathers, and his xERA is 4.96. So it could have like Braxton Garrett against the Braves last year, that start results, which I pray to God does not happen. But yeah, and that's the 2-step, the 10 Ks, and probably the puck news is why people went for Weathers. Kind of secured his role in the rotation for a little bit longer, at least, so they maybe get Garrett back. Because I was considering dropping Weathers in the main event. He was on one of my. He was like someone I was considering cutting because of how crowded the rotation was going to get. But now that Puck got injured, for now, I'd rather have him as a bench streamer Weathers. But like I said, you heard my options. I kind of had to roll with it this week.
You did, and if he survives to stay in the rotation, on paper he gets at Oakland next week, which feels good.
Hopefully I get rewarded.
Yeah, because right now they have Garrett coming back next week, which technically he might come back this week. So that'll depend a lot of the rotation. But if somehow Weathers slots into that at Oakland start, I don't know if it's worth $107 people paid this week, but it's definitely worth having a roster spot for him. Let's put it that way. He'll be better than most 2-pitch options we see next week.
Yeah, they have him fitting into the 5-man rotation, so he's probably going to be there. It's just so funny seeing 4 lefties. They've always been this way, the Marlins, for the last couple of years.
Even with Puck, let's replace him with another lefty. That's all we got down there. But right now it's Weathers and Rogers are the only ones locked into their day this week. There's a chance Garrett comes back Wednesday and Luzardo gets pushed to Friday, which would be amazing because right now Luzardo's scheduled for Wednesday, at least when I set my lineups today. So if he can get pushed to Washington, as much like nice things I said about Washington, then we can all agree we'd rather take that than the Braves in this story. And then you got Cabrera to round out the 5. On paper, that's a good rotation. It's amazing they're not putting together yet this year. That's a pretty good rotation. All right, Jameson Taillon returned from the IL this past week and was pretty good. He was added in 100 leagues, as high as 89, as low as $1. 5 innings, 4 Ks, 1 run on a solo shot through 73 pitches. It's kind of who Taillon is. He's going to have some rough starts. He's going to have some really good starts. To me, he's really great for 15s, 12s. There's a window for Taillon. So what's your thoughts on Jameson Taillon? Because I already had him pretty much everywhere.
No, you kind of mentioned what I was going to say. So 15, definitely valuable. He was before the injuries kind of took hold on my teams, nothing serious, but like I started to have like guys pop up here and there. I was considering stashing Taillon because I know Curlin was big on adding Taillon wherever he could, and I think he held on to him where he had him. So hopefully he started. I'm sure he did. It was against the Marlins, but that's the thing. It was against the Marlins, his first start. So I would just be cautious if you saw that, if anyone listening saw the results to that start and think, oh, he's going to be great for me this year. But yeah, in 12s, he's probably more of like an actual streamer. I don't know if I would consider Taillon a bench streamer because he doesn't really have the upside of who he could probably add in a 12-team league. But yeah, he's definitely valuable in 15s. He's going to pitch all the time as long as he's healthy. Has had a lot of health risks. So yeah, it's 89 is kind of pricey, especially in a 12. I could see that maybe in a 15, but even that I wouldn't pay for Taillon.
Yeah, I'm a Taillon guy, but that's why I grabbed him for a couple bucks over the last few weeks to stash because I wasn't paying the premiums for Jameson Taillon. I like the upsides. He's kind of a bench stash for me just in the sense that pitching's so bad right now. When we start looking at waiver wire ads, I kind of know who Taillon is, so I can start him. Or if it's a week where I don't like his matchup, I throw another reliever out type stuff like that. It's just kind of a little bubble with Taillon where it's not flashy, but it's a safety net where I can take chances elsewhere type scenario. So that's all. Again, I'm a more cautious player than others. So if you're like an aggressive, like a Guilds or something, you are not rostering Jameson Taillon. I could probably already see his conversation right now, but to each their own. We'll see how it goes. All right, next one up here, Conor Wong. We were talking catchers earlier, and I mentioned Wong, 97 leagues, as high as 77, as low as $1. And Wong's been very serviceable, 319 on the season, 3 homers, plays some second base as well, gets all over the place. So I mentioned it to some people in some DMs and some other things this past week looking for catcher help. Wong is definitely a guy I'd look to because Herrera and Amaya are probably gone. So I got no problem in a world that you probably had to lose Francisco Alvarez or something that Conor Wong was an option.
Yeah, especially in 15s. If I know he went for some pretty big prices, Wong did in the main event. Excuse me. And I don't know if I would have paid that for Conor Wong. I mean, if you really need a catcher, sure. But he's definitely I remember Wong being a pretty good, like a catcher 3 in DC season. And yeah, I think who did he he replaced Reese McGuire, right, for the Red Sox?
They were kind of platooning for a while, and then kind of as expected. McGuire, like, he's actually hitting for a decent average, but got banged up, and he's just not consistent where Wong can actually do stuff. So Wong kind of got the role, and I even put Wong into some of my DCs because you said he's a catcher 3 on a lot of my teams. I put him in over Bo Naylor to start the week. He's got 4 games. He'll probably play at least 3. Like, Bo's slowly getting it going right now. So, yeah.
He's in 4th while the Red Sox are injured, too. Wilyer Abreu 3rd, Conor Wong 4th. That's
yesterday with versus a lefty, Rob Refsnyder was 3rd.
So Ref Snider tangent. So Ref Snider used to be a Yankee. He was this big prospect, and he was so bad. And now just seeing him be on the Red Sox consistently, I'm like, well, it doesn't really matter because he's not that good. But it's just like this guy was so awful. He was such a bust of a prospect, and now that it's kind of say something for the Red Sox, I think, because they keep playing him and Dahlbeck, which I don't think they're both MLB worthy. But it's just funny seeing Ref Snider after all these years. Like he's 33 now, so it's been a while since he first got called up, and I just can't believe he's still in the majors.
Yep, it's pretty wild, and he's the quote-unquote lefty killer. I mean, he had a good game on Sunday, so you never know how that'll play out. Keaton Winn of my Giants. Love Keaton Winn. I've been a fan of his in deeper formats all season. Definitely worth a 12-team look this week. He was added in 97 leagues. As high as $76, as low as $2. I've talked about it on a lot of shows, but when it comes to Winn, it's 3 earned runs or less than 3 out of 4. He's got 6 Ks in 2 starts. I like the fact he's got at least 5 innings in each start. And yeah, I'm not the biggest model guy because I'm not really smart enough to understand all the intricacies to them. But I know Stuff Plus is a good estimator for things for standout stuff. And he's 16th, at least when I looked at it on Saturday. And Stuff Plus, like right ahead of some elite options. I guess I should probably just pull it up while I'm talking about it. But like we talked about it on Bubba and the Bloom on Thursday previewing this move. Yeah, Keaton Winn he must have moved down over the weekend because, oh, wow, it's not even on the list anymore. Dirty. But Keaton Winn was going between like some of the top like Scoobles of the world and stuff before their last start, so that's probably why they jumped him. They've got another start in there. But I'm a fan. But what's your thoughts on Keaton Winn?
Yeah, I think I actually played him in the DC that we're in together this week because of the 2-step
Nice.
Mets Pirates. So that's definitely why he was added. And like you mentioned, he had that good stretch of production lately. I just don't like. So it's funny you said that Stuff Plus was so high until the other guys pitched. So like looking at Wynn's underlying numbers, 9.7 swing strike rate, which isn't that good. That's below average. And like the Sierra is 4.14, which is solid. XZIP's 3.98. Good ball percentage. So I know Ryan would appreciate that. 33% ball percentage. So he's not walk, and that's good to know because his walk percentage is 9.2, which I don't think those two numbers line up. The 33% ball percentage and the 9.2 walk percentage. That feels kind of high for that low of a ball percentage number. So maybe there's better days ahead for Wynn. And I remember looking at him. I think I remember I texted you at one point during the DC season asking about Wynn because I think he had like a 12-something Cape swing strike rate last year. I'm like, well, I'm in like the 400s. What do you think of him? And I already picked Wynn, I think, when I texted you this, but you gave me the stamp of approval. So far, so good. Wish I had him in more spots with the way pitching is always. You never know who you're going to have next week, but definitely a good ad for this week for the 2 starts.
Yeah, he'll definitely have that kind of appeal in deeper formats. So I got it figured out. He wasn't coming up because of the innings, but I lowered it to 20 innings pitch. He's pitched 22. Stuff Plus, he's tied for 15th on this list. He's tied with Christian Javier ahead of Cole Reagans, Garrett Crochet, Jose Soriano, who we'll talk about a little later. So there's some names that have been very good this season that he's around, is my point in this section. And again, not the end-all be-all, but it's a good way to look for maybe standouts to dig in on, and Keaton Wynn definitely checks those box. A couple more here before we talk about our ad drops. I think we talked about Jurickson Profar last week. I feel like maybe not. He's added in 96 leagues, as high as 121, as low as $1. Playing every day, driving in runs for the Padres. Kind of slowed down a bit this past week, but 4 in Coors to start the week is always a good thing. So I think that pretty much sums up why Jurickson Profar was so popular.
Yeah, I think we did talk about Profar last week, and the Coors start or the Coors series makes sense.
All right, let's talk about Jose Soriano, because I know we have a listener question on it, so we can kind of just touch on all of it here. But he was added in 90 leagues, as high as $81, as low as $1. If we're looking at Stuff Plus, he is 20th and Keaton Wynn is 16th. I just had that up here before I changed the page. So he's been good there. Started out in the bullpen. The Angels have started to stretch him out. For those that aren't aware, he's made 3 starts, now got up to 6 innings in his last outing. 6 Ks or more in all 3 starts he's made. He's looked pretty darn good. Last start was in Great American Small Park. And when you look at the schedule coming up for Soriano, it's like, I don't know why he wouldn't stay on the rotation, but he's got Minnesota this week, and then next week he's got at Cleveland, and then probably a 2-step coming up shortly thereafter. So what's your thoughts on Jose Soriano?
So he was actually someone, I don't know if we covered this edition of Tidbits, but I wrote about Soriano for the last week. So I think he covered the 2 stars.
I think we did, yeah.
Yeah, I think we talked about him last week. So I was happy to see he kind of pulled through. The one thing that gives me pause for being overly optimistic going forward is that he had 5 walks against the Rays and then 3 against the Reds. So that's 9 and 11 innings, or 8 and 11 innings. So that's not ideal. So he's getting a little wild. And I think when we talked about him, I was mentioning how when he was a reliever last year, he was pretty wild. And then he had the first start in the rotation. He didn't walk anyone. So I said, okay, well, if he can maintain that, Soriano, then there's some upside here, especially with how hard he throws. Then looking at the numbers, so you mentioned or alluded to the K rate, 31.6%, which is awesome. That's like elite level. But he has a 10.5% swinging strike rate. So he's kind of getting lucky with his Ks right now. And on top of that, he has the 13% walk rate, which is not ideal. And that's kind of justified by the 40% ball percentage, which is very high. It's not ideal either. So Soriano is kind of like one of those upside flashy guys. And I didn't start him where I have him in a draft and hold. I think I just had better options. But I get the upside for the Ks. And like I mentioned with the swing strike rate, I don't know if they'll be sustainable. And in these last 2 starts, he's kind of had the walk problem again. So I would just temper expectations. And also, I think still Seth doesn't expect to be out for too long. I think it's already been at least a week, and I think the timetable was like 3 weeks. So clock's ticking for Soriano. Yep. So, I mean, I guess it could be like a 2-week rental. I don't know if he would kick anybody else out of the Angels rotation, but
maybe Canyon.
Yeah, is Canning still in there right now?
Yeah, he's still in there for now. Yeah.
Yeah, so he would be the first one out, but I think Sorano has to get the walks in check before that happens.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes because he's only 44% rostered still in OCs. So there's
he's a big target in main events.
And I had him in all my waterfalls. Like we're going to switch to our ad drops right now, and we'll talk about those. I don't think I got him anywhere. We'll see, but he was definitely on my agenda this week. Just didn't maybe. I weirdly, I don't know about you. Well, you do more 15, so it might have been different. In my 12s this week, I had tough times finding some drops in certain guys that between stashing guys or like, the Aussie Albies obviously not dropping guys like that. It was tough for me to find drops this week for my 12s. It was very tricky.
It was team dependent for me. Like I had some obvious ones and others I had to kind of like really think about if I wanted to drop these guys to add who I needed. So
for sure.
It's a mixed bag.
Yep, that makes sense too. Let's go to it then. Let's start with your 15s. What were your results in your 15s?
Okay, so right off the bat, we're going to get to the guy I've been alluding to for every outfielder FAAB pickup. So this is my first main event. I added Max Kepler coming off the IL, dropping Trey Lipscomb, 56, runner up at 38. So this was actually a league where I drafted Kepler. I had to drop him. So I was able to get him back, which is you're always scared about dropping someone. And I had a Kepler on a few teams coming out of draft season. I think he's going to play every day. Great power upside. That's what this team needed. So he was a big target in most of my leagues. I think he was available. Kepler was. So I got him. And then I added Jose Miranda, dropping Oliver Dunn. That was not fun while it lasted. And that was $8, run up at 4. So that was a good bid. And Uncle Ted has a question that we'll get to eventually about Miranda. So that was main event one, just those two ads. And this is the team that's happy to hear the Ozzy Albie news because I got the Berger injury, the Seiya injury, and then the Albies injury, like all in a row, and Whitlock too. I held on to all 4 of them. I'm like, these guys are too good for me to drop. But hopefully Berger's back, and then the Ozzy stuff comes through too.
Yeah, I got spurned on. I have Albies in one that I have to play him in because I didn't have anybody I really wanted to add drop for like a small injury. Then Harper goes on the paternity list today, and there's one other thing that took place, and I'm like, oh, this sucked real quick. Like you said, thank you, Albies. Thank you for coming back this week, and please, no setbacks. Like I need the back in that lineup stat. Was that all your 15? Sorry, I cut you
No,
off.
that was main event one. It was those two. I got a couple more. But it's funny you mentioned Harper because I had to replace Harper with Chris Taylor in a DC, and I was like, this
Harper
is awful.
in Cincinnati. Well, then I don't know if you saw it about an hour ago, Manny Machado got put on the paternity list, and he's in Colorado. So you get Machado and Coors and Harper in Cincinnati. And I'm like, oh, dude, boys.
Awful planning.
Induce your wife on this past Friday. You can be back playing this weekend. Let's go.
I hate people. I think I was telling Curlin, I always miss the paternity or the bereavement guys, because there's no notification for it. So like I'll set my lineups like an hour or two before, and I'm like, okay, I think I got everybody set. And then I go to check my lineups. I'm like, oh, Yastrzemski's on the paternity list, or all these guys, and I was happy to catch Harper for once. So, I mean, that could have been bad sitting him on 2 teams or starting him on 2 teams. All right, main event number 2. So this is the Cubs main event. So I added Neris, a bit of 134, dropping run up of 72. I dropped Blaze Alexander. I wanted to keep Blaze because I think he's playing full time now with Jace Peterson getting cut. But then Blaze hurt the hammy, so I guess it's not the worst drop right now. I needed the spec because I have Alzolay on this main event. Then my next bid was Mark Leiter Jr. I dropped Robbie Grossman, bid of 48, run up at 35, so that was good. So I got all 3 Cubs closer candidates on this main event. And this is my best main event, so I wanted to make sure I don't lose because Council's an idiot. So that's that one. 2 ads there. Let's go to main event number 3. This one I added Max Kepler again, $54, run up at 32. I dropped Mickey Moniak, so good to get the power in the outfield. Then I added Cole Irvin for a start against the A's, dropped Joe Boyle, $18, run up to 12. Then I added 2 streamers, so I need a lot of starting pitching help on this main event. I had Max Meyer, who I ended up cutting. I didn't really want to. I mentioned that last week, but I just needed the roster space. So I added Trevor Williams for his stream. I think he's playing the Marlins. I dropped Meyer, $12, no backup, so 12 isn't bad, but I was hoping to maybe be a little more efficient there. Then I added Nick Nastrini from the White Sox. He had a rough start the other day, but
did you hear the news today?
No, is he sent down?
He's got sent down today because I added him in a couple of leagues too. Yeah,
you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah, no, that's why I didn't know you were gonna say it because I figured it's coming up in one of mine. He was in my waterfalls as like a second or third option in some, and I ended up getting him. He got sent down today. Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna try to see live if I can change out. Oh, you know what? I never played him.
Yeah, he was on the bench. He was on the bench in mine too. So I was like, okay, well, whatever.
Well, I added him with the potential of starting Nastrini, but I think I ended up playing Ashcraft instead. So thank God I did that. But so I dropped Colin Ray, so it wasn't the worst thing. Ray isn't really striking guys out, so I'm kind of waiting for him to explode. That was also 12 no backup, so I guess I'm dropping Nastrini next week. And then my OLAC, shocker, I also added Max Kepler, $36, dropped Willie Castro, runner up of 4, so people weren't as – I lowered the bid on Kepler this one knowing that it was an OLAC, so it probably wouldn't be as highly desired, but I just didn't drop the bid enough. And then added my boy Ryan Feltner, $6, runner up of 5, dropped Tyler Wells. I didn't really want to drop Wells, but Feltner has a good 2-step next week. He has 2, I think, in Miami and in Pittsburgh, and he has great K stuff. We talked about Feltner last week. He had a good outing last week in terms of Ks, but then I'm setting Feltner in Colorado this week, but this is more like a 2-week out move. And that was it.
Nice. Very nice. I'm starting to get by your Feltner love a little bit more, so it's okay. I'm starting to see it on that.
Ryan spoke out about it.
Yes, he kind of backs it up here, but you had your Kepler love this week. I was a Tommy Pham hunter this week. And mainly in 15s. He wasn't really available in 12s. I think people drafted more in 15s and just dropped them. In my OLAC, I got Tommy Pham, dropped Henry Davis, 124 to 79. And then in this one, I added Nick Nastrini, dropped Max Meyer, 12 to 2. So, yeah, $12 is just like you. So we're going to do that one all over again.
On the same page.
Yep. Same page there. Main event qualifier, I got Nolan Chenwal, dropped Jose Abreu, 12 to 4. I'm like, screw it. Lee Chenwal plays all righties this week in Anaheim. Let's see what the kid's got. He's got a couple hits over his last few games. Actually, looks like maybe he's figuring it out. Where Abreu's so gone. I'll take my chances there and see if something changes in that format. All right, what do you got for your 12s?
So I did make moves last week in my 12-team home league. I added Jesse Winker. Ended up dropping him for Andy Pajes when Pajes got called up, and then I dropped Pajes on Sunday for Jock Peterson, and I wasn't going to play Pajes because of how he was striking out. I missed the home run. It probably cost me a category, I think. But Jock plays today, so I got at least 2 games out of Jock.
Yep,
so there's that streaming mentality.
Yep, that's what you do in those daily formats. All right, so my 3 OCs, we'll start with the first one. This one, I literally was texting Curlin and the guys when I started doing my FAAB going, holy crap, this guy's available. What do I do? Because I'm not a good person at bidding high. Josh Lowe was available in this OC. And obviously Josh Lowe's about a week, maybe less than a week away from returning to the Tampa Bay Rays. And we know Josh Lowe has his faults, but he also has a lot of really goods when he's healthy on the diamond. So I added Josh Lowe, dropped Blake Perkins, which stung because Blake Perkins is playing really well. Kind of goes to my comment. I had no one to drop in these leagues. It was very, very frustrating, but I weighed the long-term ramifications of a Lowe versus Perkins, hopefully. 277 to 156. I was kind of shocked because I was telling Ben before the show, talking it out with Curlin and others, for as much as Colton Cowser went for last week, you'd think Lowe would kind of garner that type of money. No, not so much. So that was kind of a surprise. And here's a fun one for you. In this same league, I didn't get him. Andy Pajes went for $141. 0 runner-up bid. If I'm that dude, I'm so unbelievably not happy with life right now. But 12s, man. 12s.
It's wild.
12s is
it's like me with my Josh Young ad last week.
Yeah, because then you got Amed Rosario went for 54 with a runner-up of 53. No one bid on Pajes, though. Nathaniel Lowe, 44 to 44. Nothing on Pajes. It's just so funny to me. Unbelievable. My second OC, I added Shelby Miller, dropped Kent Maeda 3-0. There was really nothing else there for me to do in that format, and I just wanted Kent completely off my roster. I'm done with him. If he proves me wrong, so be it. And then my OC3, this was another fun one. I added Jack Flaherty, but this stung. Dropped Griffin Jacks as Johan Duran's supposed to be back soon. 56 with 0 runner-up bid on Jack Flaherty. 0 runner-up bid. Thank you, OC World. That is fun. Nathaniel Lowe, remember how I just told you he went for 44 and runner up of 44 in the other league? Well, I bid 44 to drop Anthony Rizzo here. Runner up was $1. So there's $100 with $1 runner up between two players that I spent. That stings. But then I got Wilyer Abreu and dropped Jose Abreu 7-0. No runner up on Abreu either. 12 teams.
That's a good bid right there. $7. Wow.
Yeah, I'm pumped on that one. The other ones I'm sitting there going. So basically, I got 3 players for $107 with $1 total in runner up bids. Welcome to the OC life. That's like just stupid, so dumb. But that's because then you look at the other players and it's like Kerry Carpenter 82, runner up of 41, but none of the like Wilyer Abreu didn't get even a $6 bid. Like, what are we doing here? So Ryan O'Hearn,
I'd be so frustrated doing that.
Ryan O'Hearn, $87, runner up of 36. Like, what are we doing? It's insane. Kirby Yates was available in this league, went for 287, runner up at 211. So that got some action at least. All right, let's do some listener questions now that we got that comedic relief out of the way. Uncle Ted in the chat asks, Jose Miranda or Miguel Sano with Casas out in a 15-team league? You picked up Miranda this week, so I'll let you have the floor on this one.
This is interesting. So I wonder if Uncle Ted saw the Sano talk on Twitter today.
Yes.
Did you? So I'm assuming you saw it as well.
I saw part of it. I didn't get all of it. So I got kind of tipped off to Gecko and the robot and some others were talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's who it was. So apparently Phil has Sano on every one of his FAAB teams. So that always makes you double take when you see something like that. So I actually looked at Sano after seeing this, after seeing that conversation, and he's hitting 300, which is like catching, I don't know, like a comet or something flying over your head. So it's not going to last for sure because Sano strikes out so much. But to Uncle Ted's question, so the one thing, so of course, I mean, I'm assuming trying to fill a CI because they're different positions. Miranda and Sano, I think is first base eligible right now, in NFBC at least. Miranda's third base. And then I can also go with, okay, so there's position difference. There's also that profile difference. Miranda's an average guy, Sano is a power guy. But since I'm not going to do the cop-out answer of saying it depends on what you need, I would probably go Sano, as much as I hate to say it. Not just because Phil is big on Sano, but because Miranda seems like a temporary replacement. Royce should be back. They have a ton of lefty first base types on the Twins. Rendon's hurt for the Angels, so he's done for a while. So the DH spot is available. I don't know. The Angels it's a less clouded, I think, in terms of playing time than the Twins. So I'd probably go Sano.
Yeah, I'm completely with you for pretty much all that reason. Is Sano, barring something weird, which he could do, pretty much seems locked in to playing time, like you're saying, where Miranda might be playing well, but he's going to be in a platoon, and Royce Lewis will knock him right out of the way whenever that takes place. So I'm with you. Give Big Miggy Sano the shot in that one. All right, some more questions we got for you here. No, that's Joe G. Adding Jose Soriano in a 12-team roto? I would.
Yeah, at least for now. I mentioned, he may not last forever, and it may get ugly with the walks, but I would definitely take the chance. And I forget who Joe was. He gave some drop options. I think it was Edward Julian. I would probably drop Julian in a 12 for him.
Yeah, he said, do you want to drop Julian? I have Witt, Geloff, and Arcia. Just added Amed. You can drop Julian, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I'd make that switch if you can.
In a 12-team league, for sure. Yep. Adam Brunchen says, enjoy this. I dropped Luis Robert Jr. Must have been earlier in the year. One of those, he's falling that he's a value pick. I instantly regretted on draft day. It was a 12, but good Lord, that's one hell of a fag gamble. So maybe he dropped him, and this is just in his league, so he wanted us to talk about it. Yeah, because it's not the color of his team. So it's somebody else in his league. Somebody added Lou Bob for $573, dropping Austin Hayes. Runner-up was $178. Almost $400 difference in price tag. But so if Lou Bob was available in your 12-team league, would you spend $573 on him?
No, I'm never bidding that much on anybody. It's just too much money. I mean, I would go for Robert. I would probably spend less than $200.
Yeah, the runner-up was $178. So
yeah, so I would be in the runner-up shoes. But good for whoever got him. Hopefully, he comes back healthy.
Yeah, so it was a rage drop, kind of like it sounds like it was kind of a rage drop situation, and then someone jumped all over the chance to add Lou Bob back to the roster. But we'll see. He's got to stay healthy, man. That injury is nasty, so I'm curious what we get when Lou Bob comes back. Our buddy Anthony Gialdi, if St. Louis doesn't send him down, how long do you hold a part-time dud in Jordan Walker for 15s and 12s? I'll let you go first on this one.
I was listening to the RotoWire pod earlier today, and they Jeff and Scott were actually talking about Jordan Walker. I do not have that issue. Fortunately, I did not draft Jordan Walker anywhere. So let me see how he's doing. 164 average, no homers, no steals. So it is not looking
it's
good.
Bad.
I would drop him in at 12 probably. 15. There's been kind of some guys popping up. Like we went through a lot of the guys on we covered tonight were available in 15s. It's just So sorry, Mike, but I went to roster resource real quick. Walker's on the bench right now. I would maybe wait another week in 15s, Anthony, but I would definitely drop in 12s, and he's probably first one up in 15s to get cut.
We're pretty much on the same page there. 12s, he's gone. 15s, there's probably gonna be someone that pops up here. Like I'd have Wilyer Abreu over Jordan Walker. Like if you're on the waiver wire this week and that was a question, that's a drop for Abreu type stuff. So if someone pops up, like even Pages, I'd probably take over Walker just because of playing time senses. But Abreu for sure. We'll kind of see how that plays out. All right, Ben, we're going to wrap it up there. Another fun episode in the books. Before we head out, remind everybody where they can find you and what you got going on over there at Sports Ethos.
Yep, Bubba said it. You can find me at Sports Ethos, tweeting out my article when it drops on Sundays. And so looking at FAAB pickups based out of the NFBC main event, looking at 4 starters each week, 2 to stream, 2 to add short term. I think we mentioned like Jose Sorano. He was more of a add and see how he does type suggestion. So if you need someone long term, there's options for you. If you need someone just for a week, we got that covered too. So that's what I got going on.
Awesome. Well, everybody check him out on Twitter at BreakingBen_T. And as always, my friend, appreciate you joining me to recap FAAB and talk some baseball.
Thanks for asking as always.
All right, everybody. This was Benched with Bubba, episode 668, your week 5 FAAB recap. Catch you all next time.